Another day, another episode. Let's talk about it. What's up? What's happening? What's going on? Everybody, welcome back to Mr. Station, which is your fan animation, including humanity's survival against the Titans, as well as TV, movies, and anime. I'm your host and local anime fan, Jackson Small. Welcome to my review of Attack on Titan Season 2, Episode 3, Southwestward. Let's get right into it. Before the scouts depart for Ragako, the Titan atop Connie's house welcomes him home. Or supposedly does. He doesn't know if he's going crazy or if he's actually hearing things. Later, Gelgar's and Nanaba's teams begin separately surveying the wall for a breach. At night, the two scout teams reunite, finding no breach in Wall Rose. They go to rest at Utgard Castle. Hanji explains how Eren may be able to seal the breach, and Nick refuses to talk after seeing refugees, but reveals who can. At Utgard, Raynor confronts Ymir, but is interrupted when Titans are spotted outside. The veterans engage the Titans, and the scouts under Hanji ride for Utgard. Alright, long summary, here we go. In the ruins of Regako, Connie stands by his house where the small-limbed Titan lies. Raynor and Bertholdt join him, asking if any survivors were found, and Connie tearfully informs them that none was found. Raynor comes to his side to comfort him while Bertholdt stands aside. Gelgar joins them and asks if any bodies were seen, and the three recruits admit to seeing none. Gelgar wonders at this, while Lin proposes the idea that they escape to Walsina before the Titans arrive. Connie's mood is lightened by this possibility, though Gelgar remains secretly skeptical, considering the house is well destroyed despite there being no signs of blood or gore. And furthermore, the horses remained tied up at the town stables. In other words, it's just a really weird situation. With no further investigation needed, the scouts depart, but as Connie mounts his horse, the Titan atop his house speaks to him, saying, "Welcome home." Connie stares at the Titan in shock until Raynor comes to his side, urging him to join the rest of the scouts. Connie tries to explain himself, mentioning his mother, but Raynor reminds him of the urgency of their mission and the lives at risk. Connie agrees with Raynor and joins him and Gelgar's squad. Elsewhere in Wall Rose, 7 hours after the Titan spotting, Nanaba's team concludes its task of sending out warnings to the towns in the area. Their next task is to head for the wall and locate the point of the breach where the Titans are coming from. Ymir requests for her and Krista to withdraw from the front lines, but Nanaba denies the request, stating that the recruits may be needed to send a report to the interior and if the need shall arise. Krista tells Ymir that she is content with the risks of fighting on the front lines, but wonders why Ymir chose to join the scout regiment alongside her. Ymir brashly states that she did not do it for Krista's sake, but Krista reminds her of the fact that Ymir would have been the more capable candidate for the 10th highest replacement in the cadet corps, but allowed for Krista to outrank her. Krista wonders if Ymir's interest in her is related to her family, and Ymir admits that it is true. Saying that she fights for her own sake, Krista is relieved. 2 hours later, at the eastern defensive line established by the garrison, Captain Kitz Lowerman leads a blockade of cannons in stopping the Titans from passing eastward, crippling them as Captain Brzezinska lands the killing blows. This is anime, you gotta have weird names. The garrison troops rejoice in their success, though Rico states that their defense will not hold if a swarm of Titans appears. Rico admits that something about the invasion does not seem right, and elsewhere Captain Hans feels the same, as his team rides alongside Wall Rose in search of the breach. The lack of Titans in the area stands out as a cause for concern. Later that night, 11 hours after the sighting, Gelgar's team slowly investigates Wall Rose for a breach. The tension thick in the air as the threat of the Titans lurking in the darkness grows with every second. Because in this particular moment, the only thing that's lighting their way are torches in their hand. Besides that, it is pitch black dark, and the show makes great use of this. Seriously, this episode, especially the lighting in this episode, is really good. Suddenly, Gelgar's team spots Nanaba's team approaching. Nanaba asks Gelgar for the location of the breach, which they could not find, but Gelgar tells him that his team found no breach either. They consider if the breach could have been missed, though Henning says that a team should consider searching again. Though the tiredness of the recruits and the horses leave them in need of a night's rest. Seeing the ruins of a castle nearby where they can rest, the scouts decide to continue their search in the morning. And the castle they go to is Castle Utgard. In Walsina, the scouts from the assault on Stohest continue on their ride to the Ermik district. Levi notices Hanji eyeing a crystal and asks if their hobbies are dull enough to make rock collecting entertaining. Just because Sasha is a great comedic relief doesn't mean she's the only comedic relief. And Hanji agrees. Hanji explains that the crystal is a fragment of the female Titan's hardened skin, which did not evaporate with the rest of Annie's Titan form. Hanji recounts their earlier research where they discovered that a fragmented piece of Walsina bore the same overall composition as Annie's hardened skin crystal thing. With this information, Hanji concludes that the walls must be a barrier of humongous titans, just as Armin had theorized himself. And that's a pretty scary thing to think about, that the thing that's actually keeping you from the titans are actually titans inside of it. That's a pretty scary thought. Armin attempts to propose an idea, but Hanji abruptly asks him to let them finish their train of thoughts. Given the connection between the walls and the Titan hardening, Hanji proposes that Eren could use his Titan form to harden its skin and seal the breach in Wall Maria, which leads to the cool image that I am using for the thumbnail and the main picture of this video. You cannot tell me that's not a cool visual, because it is. Armin additionally proposes the idea of holding an expedition at nighttime when the Titans are not active. Eren seems unsure of his ability to carry out the tasks in the future, but Levi states that they are not left with a choice as to whether or not Eren can do it, and that he must for humanity's survival. Eren accepts the task, thinking back to his father's basement where the secrets of the Titans presumably lie. Shortly afterwards, the scouts arrive in Ermik. In the streets of Ermik, Nick witnesses hundreds of refugees wandering the streets. Levi reminds him that the sight before them is a result of a lost wall, and a direct result of the silence from the Order of the Walls, and that such a fate will fall upon all of humanity if the Church continues its silence. Afterwards, Hanji asks Nick if he will remain silent, and Nick admits that his vow has not changed. In other words, this dude's an asshole. He does, however, inform the scouts that there is an individual who joined the regiment in that year who has the right to speak the truths of the wall that the Order is unable to. As he informs them of the individual's identity, Sasha returns from Wall Rose with a message from Hanji. Eren, Mikasa, and Armin recognize the name Nick speaks, Ymir, and Hanji realizes that any recruits in the scout regiment would be on the front lines at that time. Before they depart, Sasha delivers her message to Hanji and receives a steamed potato as a reward. This girl and her potatoes. Hanji asks the other recruits about the individual Nick spoke of, and they tell Hanji that the person is a short, young, blonde girl who is often seen with Ymir. Despite not knowing of the girl, Hanji does recognize the name Ymir. In other words, they all think it's Krista, but it's not. I'm just going to say right now it's not. It's Ymir. At Utgard Castle, Rainer confronts Ymir in a storage room, discovering something about her, as she stares at him with a look of dread. Their conversation is cut short when Lin wakes up their recruits. From the top of the castle, the scouts look down to see a horde of titans inexplicably moving in the absence of sunlight. Connie spots the beast titan among them, heading for Wall Rose, and the others look on in shock. On the ground, the titans begin to attack the tower. Meanwhile in Ermik, I'm still going to call it that, because I have no idea how to pronounce that otherwise, Hanji concludes delivering a plan of action to the other scouts. Before their departure, Levi speaks with the recruits present. He tells Armin to cooperate with Hanji by combining their intellect to form a plan, and he tells Mikasa to invest everything in protecting Eren, whom he turns his attention to afterwards. Pretty much just saying, don't screw up. At Utgard, Gelgar begins to panic as Titans attempt to break through the front door of the tower. He draws his blades in a rage, blaming the Titans for his inability to have a drink for the night. And the other 3 scout regiment leaders join his side. Nanaba tells the recruits to stand aside while the leaders put their ODM gear to work. And the scouts begin a battle against the Titans as the Beast Titan climbs Wall Rose. In Aramaic, Levi tells Aaron to restrain himself in the battles to come in order to avoid any mistakes. In other words, he's just saying don't screw up. In the wilderness of Wall Rose, Hanji sets a course for the scouts to assist in the location of the breach, and they ride for Utgard Castle, the exact place where there is a giant bunch of Titans already invading. Yeah, I think you can see where this is going. And that's the episode. It's pretty great. There is a good bit that happens here, but this one is definitely very much a setup episode. This is an episode setting up a bunch of things and a bunch of stuff that's about to happen in either the next episode or over the rest of the season. Again, very similar to Season 1's setup episodes, but I will say this one does have better pacing than a grand majority of Season 1's setup episodes did, because if you don't remember, the setup episodes in Season 1 of Attack on Titan were usually the weakest part of the season. So yeah, that's it. That's all for Southwestward. All we have now is my final thoughts, and then we will move on to final verdicts, and let's see you next time for another one. Here it is. Definitely more of a setup episode than the previous 2, but still great once again nevertheless. Levi and his friends split ways with split ways with Aaron for now. I don't know why that typo is there. Ymir is revealed by the pasture. Sasha delivers the message successfully. Connie contemplates if the frail Titan can actually speak. And a huge army of Titans led by the beast that killed Michi invade Castle Utgard right as Aaron embarks to go there. Yeah, this one has a lot more exposition and the pace is a little slower, but it's still more than worth watching, especially for the gorgeous lighting and the torch scenes. I cannot say that enough. The torch scenes in this episode are beautiful just to look at. It is pure artistry on display. So, that's it. Final verdict for this episode, 8 out of 10. It's great, just like a majority of the season has been so far, and while it is not as great as the previous 2 episodes, it's still great in its own right with its own strengths. Next time, though, we're going to get an entire episode focused on just Castle Utgard and Ymir as a Titan. Yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and say it because if the show's not going to be subtle about it, neither am I. See you next time for Soldier.
Excited for what comes up ahead.